we're going to go ahead and get started. Nelly has been flexible enough to join us during a conference, so we're gonna get going. Again, nice to see some folks we know, some new folks. Oh, Nigel's coming in. All right. Most of you know, I'm Delaney. Joe is here backing me up on tech today because Amy is out this week. And we have Nelly from CCIJ here today to talk about CCIJ's ElectionWatch tool. So I know the election might seem far away. I know some of us might be not ready to think about it, but here in the US, it is coming up quickly. So really excited to have Nelly with us today. Really quick, those of you who come to all of these know that our next one's going to be probably figure it out Tuesday, July 28th at noon Eastern. Don't have the Eventbrite page up for that just yet, but we'll be talking about our election safety collaborative work, and that will go on our main Eventbrite page. Which I just dropped in the chat, so you can sign up as soon as that drops there. And obviously you can always keep up with us through our newsletter. Got that link if you need it. And then as always, we are recording today and we'll be sending our handy recap afterwards. So I am super delighted to turn it over to Nelly.
And thank you, Joe, for all the tech assistance and setting us up. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I will just introduce myself a bit and go to the slides. My name is Nelly Kalu, and as Delaney said, I'm here to speak to you about a tool, ElectionWatch. And this is a tool that, and do bear with me if you have my internet going in and out. Anyone can just drop in the chat and let me know so I know what to go back to and how to move forward. So ElectionWatch was built from a very dynamic project that we've done and a labor of love, really. I'm CCIJ's product and innovation manager. I was also the project manager on that. I'm a journalist and an editor. And all that, speaking about ElectionWatch, is really a cumulative journey of most of what I've been doing professionally and what we also do in CCIJ. At CCIJ, the Center for Collaborative Investigative Journalism, we like to look at our journalism from three major lenses: the editorial and all of the text that goes into it, the visuals and how we see that particular investigation, the same investigation through a visual lens, as well as a data lens. And we like to combine these three in equal proportion as possible on a story. And all of those experiences have led us to ElectionWatch. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now, and I was taught something really cute, and I don't know whether I'm thought it now or later. I think it's already set, so let's see if I'll make Joe proud. So yeah, so here we go. You can all see my screen, and I'm going to have to shrink the participants' faces to maybe just Delaney's and I, so that we can, yeah, to Delaney's, so that I can have someone's face moving around, but we're here. So this is ElectionWatch, and I'll just take you on to the very next slide. Told you a little bit about me, and I'll just move on a bit. So how it began. ElectionWatch began from an investigative project called Democracy Deferred. In 2023, Nigeria had a presidential election that left almost every citizen very uncomfortable. Like, everyone had their views of it, but everybody could agree that it didn't turn out as we had hoped. In a country where democracy is really under question, or at least really doubted, there was a time when it sort of seemed as if we were going to have a whole new guard, changing the guard, someone new, someone younger, someone more interesting, we thought. But that didn't happen after going to the polls, the violence and all of that came with it. And we did a series that ran for about a year and a few months, and that was called Democracy Deferred. So we built a tool for ElectionWatch that we wish we had during that investigation, one that can be available for every newsroom that is investigating elections. Democracy Deferred became this new the landmark for building it. From that investigation, we had a few key findings. Thousands of missing and unverified election documents we found were one of the outcomes of the investigation. Evidence of overvoting and accreditation discrepancies, and a combined data analysis and field reporting that validated the anomalies that we could see. And Delaney, is it okay if we mute the people coming in so that the bell stops
Yeah.
ringing?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. These are the AI tools and methodology that we applied to that investigation. There was quite some data analysis that were done. We processed about nearly 170,000 polling materials, as well as visual storytelling that went in there. We leveraged AI and we built visualizations around the elections and the violence and to bring life to the readers. Collaboration platforms that we use, of course. There was fact checking and verification. And of course, our approach was to include both the data science, cross-referencing, and human oversight. So rather than do a full automation for where we needed AI, so in between the Google Pinpoint, Document Cloud, the OCRs, and all of the things that we applied there, we were able to create an approach that had both a healthy balance of human and AI oversight. And that's a collaboration rather, and that's how we come here. Our process was really simple. At least if you look at the process on paper, it was really simple, but in applying that process, it was tremendous. It took us months, about 6 months, just going through the data alone, where we used Python and produced a massive data set that today we can proudly say is the most in-depth investigation into Nigeria's election ever. And that's how come we knew that to do all of these processing, we are going to, and to teach other newsrooms to do it, we're going to have to find a way that automates it. In the time that we did it, we had to go through this, and this is democracy deferred at lightning speed. The document and processing alone, there was document orientation and preparation. We used the YOLO model to detect the INEC logo on election papers. INEC is the organization that is in charge of our electoral monitoring body in Nigeria. And they corrected to correct rotation of some papers. Some things went crazy. Capturing with the tech, some of them captured handbags and wristwatches, ballot papers turned upside down. It was a complete mess, and we had to figure out a way to go through all of that. Illegible papers were included as well. And so these were things that were done just in document preparation alone. Then there's, of course, on the other hand, the layout model. We had to figure out how to walk through bounding boxes, attach key value pairs together, paragraph stamps, signatures. We had to find outliers, and all of these things we did with machine learning. And of course, identifying the missing authentication elements. We moved from that as well to vote extraction and verification because our goal for the investigation was to inform it with the data. But to do that, we have to really clean the data. And there was an extraction process. For us, it was a layout model and Amazon Textract and just doing the back and forth with it until we had a cleaner version of data. There was a verification process we had to go to. The extraction process, for instance, which you can clearly see, went from layout model maps, Amazon Textract working, text matching correct table cells, all the way to reprocessing missed boxes, and then back and forth. Verification process, same thing. Method one, match numbers, for four main parties, then select the closest, to the margin, and back and forth till we could find clear outliers, have properly verified figures because we had to use OCR. So all of those steps went in 6 months and they never stopped until we started publishing the stories, and they continued till we published finally our data piece. Now, this is what you need to understand. We had to clean that data before we sent journalists to the field because we were investigating this a year after the election. It wasn't happening right at that moment. We found out these four main chapters of risks factors that affect every election everywhere. It's already happening in many countries, has happened for some forever, and it's creeping in now to what we would have called full solid democracies. One is the misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And of course, the violence and suppression and intimidation of voters. Then there's the violation of electoral laws or voters' rights, and then malfeasance around the digital support tools. All of these were the four main factors that we saw that put democracies at risks, especially during election. And because of that, we came up with ElectionWatch. Now, Journalism AI made a call in 2024 about looking for, journalist newsrooms, small newsrooms like us who want to build something interesting and intelligent. And we came up with ElectionWatch, a simple way to do all that work that we did that I just told you about. A simple way to cover 6 months of work of processing data and disinformation and narrow it down so that you can work at speed and at pace. But first of all, we had to define the problem. And the problem during elections, we realized, is that disinformation confuses voters. I think that we all know in the room now. But it also undermines trust in democracy, not just in the news or in journalism. And it's often very hard for newsrooms to track this in real time. That we know. But we wanted to fix this with an AI-powered tool that analyzes narratives, maps out actors, the actors involved in this, and visualize election disinformation timelines. Now, if you've ever worked in disinformation investigation or disinformation um, analysis, you know that there are characters involved in this. These characters, as we call them, actors, could be persons for good or for bad, or they could be elements or whatever. Now, there's also the narratives that these characters carry, spread, or attach to themselves, or are attached to the characters, even if it's not intentional. And of course, there's the visualization of timelines. These are the elements that go in for you to simplify a disinformation analysis and write a report on it. But when it's election, something else is different. And I'm going to skip this for one page because of what I'm saying and explain this part of it. When we did a sentiment distribution here, right, of what a false claim is and what it's not. And we wanted to get what the Nigerian public's reaction to misinformation around elections was. There was a negative sentiment. Nobody likes it. But the truth is, it still overwhelms voters, and it's almost impossible to explain to voters why it's such an overwhelming thing. You know there's misinformation for most people. But no one is going to sit through fact checks or start spending their time to fact check what they're hearing, even though that's the discipline involved. We're realizing every day people don't do that. So we had to define what electoral disinformation was for ElectionWatch. What was it that it's about? And we came to that conclusion from the experience of the investigation that electoral disinformation is the deliberate creation and dissemination of false or misleading information. Now, for us, it was very important that we contextualize malinformation, that it's an intent to manipulate the voters' perception. But it also is because with malinformation, there is malice attached to that misinformation. There is malice expecting an emotional response, expecting an emotional connection to that disinformation. And when that happens, we find ourselves hating and disliking things for reasons we do not know about. I said I was at a conference. I'm currently at the Global Media Forum for DW here in Bonn. And one of the fireside chats, a person said, some people dislike Keir Starmer violently, passionately, but they don't even know why. And the speaker said, he's just an ordinary guy who's just, doing his job. And he's not, whether he's good or bad or the reasons, they dislike him are, factual or not. They just really do without explaining it. It's because every time they get information, disinformation or not, about Keir Starmer, they're probably getting a very maliciously intended one. And so you build this malice in you and you vote or not based on that sentiment. So it was very important for us to get ElectionWatch to have its own definition of that. What does it do? As I said before, it does analyze narratives. I'll break down how that works in a bit. It does map out actors, and it will definitely show you your narrative timelines. That is what it does at its simplest form. What I should add is it's at its simplest form because when we got the $50,000 grant from Journalism AI, we were assigned to build a prototype. And now we wanted to build a working, functional prototype. And it is right now working and functional, except for one small hitch. that happened because of the wars in the Middle East. Our foundational system is called MongoDB. And MongoDB for us at the time that we built this was hosted in Bahrain. And so the fight affected it. And now we'll get to that point. I was telling Delaney, do we do a live test or do we not because of that? But we'll get to that point and I'll explain it a little bit more. So this is what it is, an agent. ElectionWatch is not generative AI, and it was a very intentional thing that we did because you cannot fight disinformation with a tool that could hallucinate. And it doesn't matter how much more generative AI is growing. The point was also not to break that human and machine collaboration that you see that we did with ElectionWatch, which with Democracy Deferred. With Democracy Deferred, it was very important that it had a human oversight. Very important that no matter how much we tried to use machine learning to simplify some processes, that the human oversight followed every step. However, with this AI agent, consider it the assistant that you need for your massive volumes of noise going on online. So what it will do is it has a narrative analysis engine, which uses sentiment analysis, trend detection, and cross-conference checking, all to give you, what the actual sentiment is for true or false, or all of those sort of positive or negative, and everything that follows a narrative. Its actor mapping system is one I love because one of the ways we built that was by studying Hoaxie, and it was trying to make sure that there's an intelligent network analysis around it that does this relationship mapping between how, when, who, and how they are connected, all through a very interesting visualization. And that way you can also see their spread of influence and track that as well. Then with a timeline generator, of course, that seems rather simple. You can generate that, of course, the timelines. But what we would like to do to add to this timeline generator is to be able to project allow it project or tell you a timeline history. Is this an old resurface, misinformation or disinformation repeating itself this election? Because that gives us as journalists a context about how deep or how coordinated that, misinformation or information disorder is going at the point. How do you use it? Very simple steps. You sign up, you upload your data. Now, around this part where, you upload your data and you sign up, we're also hoping to iterate a little bit, and I'll get there too. But you sign up and you have, say, an Excel sheet, because ElectionWatch reads Excel, CSV files, and stuff like that. And then you have all the information you want to analyze in simple links. So it means that if you see several things, rather than downloading, writing an analysis, you really don't need to. Just combine all those links. I've been talking about ElectionWatch all day. You will not believe it. So, so you just combine all those links, all in an Excel sheet, a spreadsheet of your choice, CSV files, whatever it is you have, and you upload that data. It will assist you in categorizing it if you choose to. And then you add any details you want, searchable tags, keywords, whatever you want, and then you run the analysis. This analysis, once it's done, will show you what I promised, the three main things. And then it will also take you to a report where it will generate for you to start writing what you want to do. So this is it. Just to reiterate this, ElectionWatch defines this. And I'm very happy to take questions on whether you think there should be more to its definition. But, from our research and from our work, as well as conversations we've had around people who work in elections, disinformation, and disinformation in general, the malice plays a very unique space there that doesn't happen in, say, health disinformation. Our goal: to strengthen election reporting, safeguard democracy from weaponized disinformation with AI-assisted, journalism tools. Now, we also decided to investigate difficult to access social platforms, and in this case, TikTok and Telegram. Now, we had to walk through with data analysts quite a lot of steps to doing that, and we have factored those steps into ElectionWatch. And we're still working through the kinks and trying to make sure that everything is as smooth as possible, but it's still a work in progress. But we have definitely figured out how to get your TikTok in and see how it breaks that down. Now, election disinformation, explained that already. Our next goal is to use this for structured task-based actions. That's what we're doing with this. And of course, it is multilingual. It handles contextual data. The reason, let me give you a little bit of background here. One of the things we also were doing during the build of ElectionWatch was to make sure that ElectionWatch is able to understand context and nuance much more than it translates a language or interprets text. And to do that, we hired journalists working in multilingual capacity to train it on context of the major languages spoken at the time in Nigeria. Our goal is to iterate this further to Spanish and to most of the major languages spoken in the US, and get it ready either for the midterms or for the main election, but get newsrooms to try it a lot. So training data is something that I'm hoping that we can come to a partnership with from this presentation. So contextual data is how it interprets it. And someone asked me once, how do you know it's working on context? Apart from the fact that it was trained on context, we know this because it isn't a simple yes or no or a simple fact checking. ElectionWatch is not a fact checking tool. It does not fact check, but it creates the nuance, and it reflects that nuance in percentages as well as text for you that your audiences are using to process or are processing from this information. So when you have a newsroom you're working with or working for, and you're dealing with election disinformation, it is not just a simple fact that A said this and it's not true. This is actually what was said. That's fact checking. And that's why fact checking isn't gaining as much ground as it should, is because there's a lot of emotion, nuance, and context to why a person will choose to believe what they want to, other than the noise or the overload of disinformation. Here's our process, simplified. The data refining process, then we have the AI ML process, and then the final output for you. And here is a narrative intelligence layer. This is how it, smartly interprets is narratives and provides how to work with it. So it's basically, like I said earlier, turning your raw data into stories, networks, and leads for you to do more. The narrative extraction goes through, of course, clustering, summarization, all that it needs. The named entity recognition, people, orgs, places. Sometimes I slow down here, sometimes I rush through, depending on my audience, for how much, most people relate with all of these. But those are the simple, machine learning steps it takes. Relationship extraction, this is basically how it maps, right? Who is linked to whom. And of course, it will build network graph and timeline visualizations for you and add a story mode board. And that's the report, basically, where you can annotate, tag, group content into cases, and then it will generate summaries, which these two, the story mode and the summaries, make up the report in general. Because when the reporters annotate, tag, group contents, and they do all of that, they're forming what the overall output will be uniquely for them. And of course, here you go. So what next have I got for you? So its value, skipped too quick. Its value, this is what we believe it ultimately does. In the end, it will strengthen press freedom and help protect elections by allowing journalists be, for once, ahead of the noise, right? You can do the job faster, understand how to get to your audience faster, and you're not doing it buried under piles and piles of narratives and fact checks and all of that. And then I highlighted this top spot for a reason. Journalists can filter the noise, yes, but with further iteration, we want it to help you fact check quicker. It is not a fact checking tool, but we want it to resurface fact checks, because we've been fact checking a lot. I've worked as a fact checker, and I tell you, fact checkers work nonstop. But sometimes you're fact checking something already fact checked or fact checked by another fact checker, and you're fact checking to tell people that it's been fact checked. So this is a fact check, right? Why do we keep doing that? Because we feel that's the one way to help, and it helps in where it can. But it can also contribute to noise, all the extra layers of fact checking about an already fact checked thing. So what it can do for you is surface a fact check around this already. So you skip that point, and you can actually just have, this has been fact checked by this, but now I'm writing about, now you can write about nuance. You can write about the spread of this, who the actors are. You can write about so much more than just a fact check. These are some of the comments we had from testing. Some good, some like this. I highlighted the two distinct ones. Extremely smooth. Those are one of our goals for ElectionWatch. And said it tested beautifully. And on the other hand, it was intimidating. Maybe an onboarding pop-up would help, right? Our goal was to keep it really simple, very easy to use, and for you not to feel the pressure we felt doing that. Its core tech is a fine-tuned Llama 3.1 LLM and a disarm framework for its machine learning and AI training. So this is how we produced its meta-narrative classification. And we like to describe ElectionWatch as a multiple agent because of all these things. It uses different, kind of tools to get to where it's going. And of course, I think this speaks for itself. The confidence scores, the key indicators, all of this. This is in a nutshell how all of that is done. Our prototype deliverables when we built ElectionWatch is a clean, structured, multi-agent platform that does what you've seen. I've been saying that from the beginning because we want this to stick, that this is at its basic what it does, but not what all it's designed to do. So where are we now? Testing, funding, iteration. We're still testing out Democracy Deferred, and I'm hoping the newsrooms here will be very happy. It's one of the things we want from you to help test ElectionWatch. Help us try it out in your newsroom. Tell me all its limitations. We want to be able to train it in the languages spoken in your newsroom. So we're looking for people from small community newsrooms as well as big ones, diverse languages, diverse societies, where you want it to serve your audience, because that's what it's at its core. And with your concerns, we can. And of course, where it serves you. It's a working prototype, so it's still really being built by this AI Canva engineer that I have there, and lots of work still going on. And we need money. We need money to build several layers that I'm going to tell you about so that it serves a lot more people. For instance, right now its compute space is quite small. We want to expand ElectionWatch's compute space. Iteration, it has to go from a working prototype to a larger working tool, and then finally to a more deployable tool for many regions because it's intended to serve globally, even though it started from a small and niche idea. Well, technically not niche, but small idea. And the plan is to take it around, especially as we said, many newsrooms face that. And here's our vision for the future, scattered around intentionally. But the main goal is to transform ElectionWatch into a full-powered AI-powered investigative intelligence platform. We want it to be able to do real-time analysis. So instead of you just uploading your data, you give it instructions to scrape the data from where you want it to do, and then it analyzes. 1 second. Delaney, do I still have time? I have just a few more slides, but I want to know if don't want to take up all the time so I can have questions.
Yeah, Nelly, I think you're good on a little more of this background, and then we'll get into that second half.
Okay.
Shortly.
Right.
Yeah.
So and this is it, expand compute qualities, as I said. We also want to bring in an ethics and safety level to it so that when journalists are in there, it's impossible to access. They can feel like it's a safe place to report even on the most dangerous things, and keep them as known and anonymous as possible, depending on what's needed in that. A consultative fact checking I've talked about, and privacy by design, and increases model training data. So right now, if I can get to expand its compute space and narrative intelligence, like by doing more model training, even if that's the least we get from here, as well as make this an AI newsroom kit where you can use this for future reporting. Absolutely brilliant. So questions at this point. Do I have another slide going on? Yeah, so this is the slide. Give me a second and then I'll get back to questions. All right, and that's the end of my slide. So doing good with time. So I wanted you to be able to do a demo. So I linked everything. The tool is here, right here. I think I might show you the tool after a few questions. There's a demo video that Delaney can share with everyone here. You just click, I think if you click, you can access them. And then there's a data set for live test. But just like I said to Delaney, my engineers had promised me that we would be able to get this up and running for today. But unfortunately, it's been a challenge. We have finally been able to relocate MongoDB to a safer, pace and to a safer distinction, but it's been a bit difficult to get the analysis to run as it should. and the reports to run as it should, and its keyword searches to run as it should. Those are the 3 things. So you can use it, but you might find yourself seeing flat graphs, and your report might not sound as simple as it used to be. It will sound a lot more technical when it should actually be in simple words. And really, some journalists submitted their narratives report just like that to their editors. And unfortunately, I can't show you those, which are something that have been bragging rights for me. But you can give it a try, and I will always communicate with Delaney on when all that is solved. But we've become, another victim of this war, but we are in a much better place to fix all of that. So I think we can get questions, and then I can show you how the tool works without uploading, or just show you the page and walk you through the page. So any questions?
I have a question, unless you want to go with the ones in the chat. What?
Anyone works. I can't see the chat, so if someone can help.
Okay. It looks like there's more comments in the chat anyway, but I'm just really interested in like the amount of time and like what's the setup time like for something like, I know you mentioned it briefly, but can you talk a little bit about like how do you integrate this with the staff, and how was the onboard, like how do you make this work for a team? I've seen people individually, myself included, dive into this stuff, but once you get multiple people working on it, I imagine that coordination and logistics and that internal collaboration is a beast. So I would love to hear even a few words on, headaches and hope.
Now, I love that question because I managed it and people really ask me, so what was all that? Yeah, so I love it. But would it be okay? Because I'm worried that I might start answering that question and never show the tool since I can't operate it right now. Will it be okay if I answer it just after running through the tool?
You can do whatever you want. This has been so great. You take it however you want. I did stop your share. I'm sorry, you may have to reshare, but
yeah, but before I reshare, I want to try that thing you taught me. I want to first set that to presentation mode and then do
perfect.
the command tab. All right, so here's the tool. This is ElectionWatch. If you click on the link, this is where you'll go. Now, what I wanted to show you today really was sign in and the whole process, right? But since my machine learning, issues are still being worked on, I will tell you that it will definitely analyze, but you won't like the graph, and I would feel really about it. But you can go ahead and test it because it does work. All right, now this is it. This is the part, what we've done, because this is still a working prototype, it still has on the page, and I think it will have this for a long time until people get very used to it, what you need to know about it before. Is this a bit too small? I can expand my screen.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. I have the window smaller than full screen, so that's on me. Go ahead.
Okay, so we want you to be able to see before you even sign in what the tool does. I've shown you this in an image already before, and I've shown you this, right, how it does that. But this is the part that I want to take some time to explain to you. And it will somehow answer Joe's questions, and I'll get in there. So what you're supposed to do, what I would have loved to do is sign you in. And I can sign in, and I would not upload data because what it will not do very well is this part right now, this analysis. You see it? As you have voter suppression, and then it breaks it down. So right now, when we do that, and also for the timeline narratives, you see a flat line. And that's because once we changed, our ML AI, settings, we still have to make sure that what we have right now continues to do the protections we want it to, stick to its multilingual stuff and all of that. And I say that because I intentionally had my developing team's email open to be sure that if I get a question that I don't like, I'll say, see, I'm not lying. Look at what's going on there. So it's open, but I hope I get the feeling I'm not going to have to use it. But this is the tool, and I really would like you to try it even now, even if it comes flat, even now. So I can answer some questions while you're doing it and also walk you through it. And maybe I just might upload the data, but this is the step. So you sign up right here, you get started. You upload your data, and you could create categories. Now we kept this, there was a bit of a back and forth with me
Yeah.
and my team about keeping these categories, because you can see there are two and people wondered why. And we're still debating it, because with these create categories, it's for you as the journalist to start having your own catalog and your own, your workspace. So you can name
Oh.
it what you like and organize your documents. While this is for each individual file, if you want to categorize it as lies or truths or
So
whatever.
are you differentiating between categories, tags,
And
categories and
categories,
tags?
folders. Yes.
Okay,
So,
cool. That makes sense.
yeah.
Got it.
But then it's not so simple to the user. And our core goal was simplicity. So I'm thinking I might just remove it and have it underlie other things. So you can see it as a drop down, as an option, but not as a specific function, right? And then of course you add your details and stuff and the tool is ready. Our ultimate goal was that. I'll come back to this. Let me answer Joe's question, and I will stop my share for a bit and just come back into the room. So to coordinate this was indeed a beast. We worked with a development team that has built AI tools, but never of this capacity, of this sort of journalistic strength in any way. And I wasn't alone. I worked with Sotiri Sideris, who is our data editor, and he and Yushi Wang, another colleague of ours, worked intensively with the data. But one thing that helped was I was also the project manager on Democracy Defed. So I knew what aspects needed to be in this tool and what simplifying the tool meant. But then it meant I did the product version of this presentation. I didn't add it here. I wish I did, but I was really very concerned about not overwhelming people. And I can actually show you if we do have like 5 minutes before the end. And what we did was we met constantly, iterated, fixed, questioned, iterated, debated, fixed, questioned, and again. So we started having early morning meetings just for data analysis until we thought we had come to a point that we didn't need that again, and it was done. Then we started having, we continued with meetings around ML and AI. We had meetings where the core function was to ask stupid questions, right? And I'll keep asking stupid questions for each of those meetings, because I wanted it to be that a journalist who had no tech skills, is a freelancer, will use the tool. And I wanted to ask all the stupid questions they ever could, because I'm a product manager, but I'm not a builder or a developer, in that case. So let me see if I can remember the details of your question that you wanted answered and give you that. I think
You've already hit so much of it. I was just really interested in like that onboarding and like how do you even present this and explain it to folks who don't who like roll their eyes or their eyes roll or glaze over at this kind of thing, because getting people to even like send email to your new email address can be a pain in the ass, let alone here's a complex multi-stage system that we've designed custom, here's how you use it. Like even when people ask for those systems, sometimes they seem to like be fundamentally opposed to actually diving in. So it's really impressive. And I wonder if you've done any, and I don't want to hog all the time, but I wonder if you've done any work with Muckrock or Document Cloud and how they do. Okay, yeah, because
I was
it
coming
seems
to
like
that.
there's a
So
lot of overlap.
they funded part of Democracy
Oh,
Defed.
duh. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So they funded that. And so we already had, that experience.
Okay. That makes sense. I can see that like the structures seem very like influenced. That's great.
Yeah. And you're right. We're still taking ElectionWatch from newsroom to newsroom, and we're still faced with people. But what we're learning, and I would say that journalists are particularly interested in how to cover elections. And journalists do not want to die or lose their jobs or lose their sanity in doing it. Because there is a disconnect now when you're doing the same thing and nothing seems to be changing is the number one sign of burnout for journalists, or the cause of burnout for journalists. Preaching the gospel and no one seems to hear or care, and the same problems keep repeating, and then in some interesting way, journalists become the victim for it. So how can they do all that work for less? They'll definitely jump on board. The question I think we're trying to answer for many of them is, how do I now translate this to a story? That's the part. And I think that that's easy for me because I'm a journalist too. And I think sitting down to discuss that a person would actually use the tool and want to make a story of it is not only the part 2 of this presentation, but it's also not this current one going on. I mean, this idea, but it's also the version I would love to get to, where I'm not just convincing people to use it, but how to tell right with it. Now, the reports are simple for a reason, so that when you see this simple report, it literally just tells you, this is what's going on, this is who's saying what, this is what people are interpreting it to be, and this is how it's going. And so immediately you have a jump off point, and you can start from there to say, I remember meetings we had with your team, and some conversation was, oh, in Latin America, there's quite a lot of disinformation going on, but it wasn't because there are no fact checks. It's because they believe things with a reason, with emotion attached to it, with purpose attached to it. So why don't we write election disinformation stories and analysis that includes how a person feels about a thing? How a person identifies with a narrative for true, even if it's true or false. There's no need telling me it's true. Talk about the reason for why I see myself through that narrative, right? And then let's start talking about that, and then add all the journalistic reason why ElectionWatch stops at like a chance for us to see the demo video, because with the demo video, even if I can't show you now, I can show you how we demo to you. And we took this demo video and the lecture all of the wall into an innovative space in Kenya, where different innovations were competing, and ElectionWatch won, and we're very proud of it winning that innovation award. And people were just happy to see the video to get a sense, since they couldn't test it live there for time reasons. So if it's okay, Delaney, you can click on the demo video, and let's have something for people to see.
It's election season. The newsroom is buzzing, phones ringing, headlines changing by the minute, social media erupting with claims and counterclaims. Deadlines are tight, interviews are lined up, and somewhere in the middle of it all, rows and rows of raw data wait to be verified. If you're a journalist or fact checker, you know the pressure. You don't have hours to dig through spreadsheets or chase every rumor. You need clarity, and you need it fast. That's where ElectionWatch comes in. A secure AI-powered platform from CCIJ, built to help you stay ahead of the chaos. Whether you're tracking narratives, verifying claims, or spotting coordinated attacks, ElectionWatch delivers the clarity and speed you need when it matters most. This is how it works. First things first, you need an account. It only takes a moment. Sign up with your email or use Google or social media. A few clicks and you're in. Once you sign in, you land here, your personal dashboard. This is where the magic happens. Think of it as your newsroom command center, where you upload files, organize data, run AI-powered analysis, and pull ready-to-use reports in minutes. And the best part? No tech skills required. No steep learning curve either. Every step comes with quick pop-up tips and intuitive buttons showing you exactly where to click. You're in, out, and on to the next headline in minutes. I know what you're thinking. I haven't actually shown you how it all works yet. Let's start by uploading our files. ElectionWatch works with Excel and CSV files, and then we'll organize them into categories, add tags, and drop in notes so everything is easy to find. You don't want to come looking for file 00123456 at crunch time. Once this is done, you hit that Run Analysis button, and here is where the AI goes to work, scanning your documents, detecting patterns, and surfacing what matters most. 1 minute, 2 minutes, and there you go. Visualizations that show how stories evolve, who's driving them, and where the risks are. Intelligent, right? When it's time to share your findings, ElectionWatch makes it easy. Download your report, send it to your newsroom, or share it with your monitoring team. In the newsroom, Every second counts. ElectionWatch helps you move faster, see clearer, and act smarter. Get started today.
You. And that's what I would have loved to show you. And I really would love a chance to do that again. However, what we want from you, please, we want partner newsrooms who want to work with us, who want to try out ElectionWatch, who want to demo it, who want us to train them how to use it. Give us a chance to try it for the meekest of elections in your community, and or for your disinformation analysis around future or elections or elections that are past, and let us collaborate and work with you. It's also something that we want to do. Have a lot of the newsrooms write analysis about ElectionWatch. Use it, write your opinion, publish it. That's absolutely wonderful for us, right? Another thing we also would like is a chance to speak to your collaborators and co-funders. Have you speak to your thoughts if it's something useful for journalism, because altogether we're fundraising, and altogether we can use that to build the kind of tool that in the next 2 years will no longer be called a working prototype, and that's what we're going for. And I have time for more questions that are not Joe's, even though Joe, I feel like I haven't answered that question because I just want to like geek out with you on how you manage the product. How did it go?
I'm good. You answered
Yeah.
it very much. You're
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I see Jean's hand up. So
Would you tell me a little more, like what were the kinds of data sets that you inputted into the tool? Were they voter registration rolls? Like what are the kinds of inputs that you were putting in? Because I like and also when it came to disinformation information, like what were the ingredients that you needed to assemble in order to use this tool?
Oh, absolutely. And great question. And I have to say, first time anyone has asked me this one. So it's not analyzing election process. So voter rolls or polling numbers were not the point. It was to analyze disinformation around elections. So a lot of chatter. And we decided the best place people speak about elections today is on all social media. So, but it was very easy to go through the Twitter of it all, or the Facebook or YouTubes of it all. But what was harder was TikTok and Telegram, because we realized that on Telegram, there are these niche, quiet platforms that a lot of damage goes on. And on TikTok, the quick videos and a lot of election conversation happens, especially recycled ones, right? Another thing we wanted to do is for you to be able to take, say, digital web stories, say something published in fake newsrooms, because that's something we realized in Nigeria. These newsrooms pop up as digital newsrooms during elections, and they're dead after elections are done. And be able to take the information from them. So we figured the fastest way journalists can do this is links from social media. So you see a lot of conversation around Trump or whatever posted on X, Twitter. It could be the same story posted in different formats, but what that means is it gets different audiences, different responses, and different chatter. But if you do take the link of that whole conversation, you're not just taking the story that was spreading, you're taking the conversation beneath it, every single other conversation that integrates out of that one, that is built around this dialogue. So you drop those links in your Excel file, about 20, 18, 30, whatever it can take, and upload it to ElectionWatch. So when ElectionWatch is reading them, it's not just reading the tweet that began it all. It's reading the responses, the sentiments, it's reading all that chatter that if you had sat down to do on your own. Did you lose me? I think I'm frozen. Yeah, okay, good. If you have done that on your own, it would have taken forever. So that's the kind of content that it's getting. Now, its training too is both around that, because as I said, one of the chapters of Democracy Deferred was investigating disinformation around the elections. So we had piles and piles of tweets and Facebook posts that we had analyzed. So we want the same from you. What are the conversations around elections in your newsroom? And if you have documentation, it doesn't even necessarily need not the polling things per se, but records of text written, analysis of dialogue, of who feels what, and we want to upload that and start retraining even more on context. So it has, say, Nigerian and Kenyan context. We're also thinking about bringing in South African. We're having that conversation as well. It's also part of the conversation I'm having here. So we want a lot of US and from different communities in the US and those local community newsrooms, so we can have those information and train it more on that data. We want it to really be in the next 10 years to have so much knowledge around elections globally because it's been intentionally trained on those. And it's a tool for newsrooms to use. So when it has more, okay, imagine this way, Jean. If it understands the Nigerian context, South African context, the entire sub-Saharan context, it understands the US, Canada, Mexico, the entire, South American context and European context. When you're working on an election, it can actually connect you to how that is more of a global problem than an isolated, Florida problem, right? And so a journalist who's working with ElectionWatch becomes many levels of intelligent because it can now draw context around how this problem around this election here might be the reason why A, B, or C places in the world have suffered several consequences of those decisions. So that's the sort of intelligence tool that I hope it becomes by training on all these multiple data. Was I able to answer your question, Jean?
I mean, I think so. I mean, obviously I could see how putting in links to things that seem to be either getting a lot of attention or would be useful to input in there. And I guess the idea is that the tool is able to go from that and see how it spreads out and analyze it in the many different ways.
Yes. So that's
Okay.
why it maps the narratives. Yeah.
Okay.
So the point is to get the conversation, what people are saying in. But today, the best way to do that is not just it's on social. So what we trained it on was all the noise. Bring in all the noise and let's watch it filter into narratives, timelines, and maps, right? Rather than filter and then instruct it to like a particular thing. So we trained it on all of that. And the important thing is that it gets in all the noise and is able to, do exactly that.
Great. I know we're just about at time.
Thank
Folks,
you.
I'm going to be sending out, everything we talked about today and that sample data set, the demo and you'll also have Nelly's contact information. So if folks are playing with this on their own time and they have more questions, definitely we can keep the conversation going.
Yes. Thanks, Delaney.